And we're live. Hey, Joe, what's going on?
Oh, just another day in paradise.
Episode 6 of This Week in the Grotto. Today we're going to talk about the negative impacts of social media. But before we do, we need
That's a
to
rabbit hole.
give away a keychain. So, how do you win one of these keychains? Leave us a review on our You Evolve Buffalo Facebook page. We pick a review each week. We read it on the podcast. And if we pick your review, we will send you a keychain or you can pick it up at the Grotto. This week's winner is Mo Hammond. She writes, I highly recommend UEB and their experienced trainers to anyone. They offer a wide variety of classes and programs and have so much to offer people of any age or fitness level. Trainers are knowledgeable and caring, and we have met some great people here. Stop in and try a class. You won't be sorry. Well, thank you for the fine review, Mo, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you in the next few days. Your keychain will be at the Grotto. Thank you. Before we get into the topic of the day, I know that you and the You Give Buffalo crew have been very busy. Last month, you have new things coming up this month. You have a whole bunch of stuff going on. Why don't you give everyone a quick overview of what you guys are doing? As a matter of fact, you know, I think you guys are doing such great work, and I think it's really being recognized, at least I know from the people that come to Evolve Buffalo. A couple people are like, Jill is doing all this on her own. I'm like, no, it's not on her own. She's got a lot of help from people. You know, it was originally her idea that she started. You know, I think they're like, where does the time come from? But I think it's basically saying they can appreciate how much time is being, you know, time is valuable, and that you and the other people are putting into it of your own time. I think it's really awesome. You guys are doing great.
Thank you. You know, like I had mentioned before, and you just said, there's no way that this would be possible if it was just me, and I know that because I've tried for years. I think that originally I had come up with this idea, oh my God, maybe 8 years ago. And it started off with, I think the very first one that I did for January, I think that I collected toys for Children's Hospital, because they would take like gently used toys, like the harder, like no stuffed animals or anything, but they would take it to put in their waiting rooms. And we donated those. The girls and I at one point we've been doing the Valentines for probably about that same time, where we made Valentines or even wrote out like the pre-made Valentines, and we donated those to Children's Hospital and other places. But essentially when it came down to it, because like you said, time is valuable, there was just no way that I wasn't able to do it on my own. And, you know, originally when it started, it was, Bridget was very helpful. Bridget Clancy in the very beginning stepped up. Tracy Sawinski, they both stepped up. And we kind of came up with this idea because there were other people that were like, well, you know, we'll help you. And we kind of put together a committee to where everyone is, each month, basically one person kind of tackles that, whatever that project is for the month. In December, Tracy ended up taking all of the cookies and the crazy amounts of clothes that we collected to the Buffalo City Mission. And then just in January, Rachel Joyner tackled that Family Justice Center project. And she actually just forwarded me the email that she received from the Family Justice Center, basically saying, you know, we're overwhelmed with your group's generosity. These donations will go far to help the Family Justice Center clients, and we're so grateful. And, you know,
there's more stuff at the Grotto still.
There is. She's going to pick it up, and then we actually have the monetary donations that were given as well. that are going to be taken care of and make sure that we get all of those items over to the Family Justice Center on top of what was already donated. And this month we have coming up, actually tomorrow, our Valentine's little making event at the Grotto from 11:30 to 12:30. Anyone is welcome to come join us. That's a free event. If you have supplies you want to bring, by all means, feel free to bring construction paper, scissors, glue sticks, anything like that, but anyone can come. Like I said, it's a free event. And then actually this evening is our first in a series of 3 donation-based boot camps that are going to go to the Luca Kalani Foundation. I did repost a little bit more information about that foundation and what that's all about. But tonight is the first one in the series of 3. The class starts at 5:30 p.m. We're doing beats. We're doing the Cupid Shuffle. It's $15 to join us. And like I said, 100% of the proceeds are going to be going towards that foundation. On the 21st, Friday the 21st, we're going to be doing Kinesis Kids, which is our kids class that's suitable for ages 6 through 12. I had somebody send me a message and ask, because they have 2 kids, and they were wondering if they were to just pay for the kids or if they needed to pay as the parent themselves. Only the kids. It's only for the kids. The parents don't need to pay to be there. They do have to stay, but they don't have to. They won't be participating. They'll basically just be kind of hanging out, and they can take time to read a book, watch, come, enjoy some of the interactions with the kids and that kind of thing. That will be at 6 p.m. on Friday the 21st. And then our final one is going to be Friday, February 28th. And that's just a basic boot camp, and that'll be at 5:30 p.m. So that's with that. And then, yeah, like I said, just thank you already to everybody who has made all of these months be extremely successful. We're blessed with a very kind-hearted, giving community at U Evolve Buffalo. And everybody, I mean, they've gotten donations from people that they work with. So I think that we're in a pretty solid community. It's really nice to see how willing people are to give back.
For sure, for sure. A couple other things on the docket. We do have green UEB hoodies on sale. They'll be on sale for about another week. You can find out more information about those on our Facebook page, and you get a little discount if you purchase one of the hoodies through the Cash App. Look for U Evolve Buffalo on the Cash App. I think it's like maybe $3 off if you use the Cash App.
5.
Is it that much?
Oh, no, it's $3 off the hoodie.
Yeah.
But if you've never used the Cash App, we just had a few people who have never used it before. I know Jen Mann jumped and downloaded the app, but they get a $5 credit from the Cash App, and so do we. So it's kind of like we all get a little bit of a win. So that hoodie that is $32 through the Cash App, you get $5 kicked back to you.
Yeah, so essentially it's $27.
Mm-hmm. If you've never used the app, yeah.
Yeah, if you never used the Cash App. So that might be a great thing. It's free to download, so it doesn't cost you anything to use. Our February schedule is up, so make sure that you're aware of the changes on the schedule. We have a couple classes moved, a couple time slots have changed. There's a couple new classes on the schedule. Sweatshop,
Meg's coming back.
Express, Meg's Dance Dance Evolution will be on the end of February schedule in another week or so. So make sure you check in with that. And then, of course, make sure you're tuned in to all our social media outlets. Obviously, YouTube. You want to make sure that you subscribe, and if you hit the bell, you'll get notifications when our latest videos and podcasts are released. If you find any of the information in any of our podcasts helpful, hit the like button, leave us a comment. That always helps in the algorithms and gives the videos a little more exposure. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also visit our website, uevolvebuffalo.com, or you can always email us at uevolvebuffalo@gmail.com. with all the social media stuff out of the way, I suppose we can jump right in and talk about all the negative impacts of social media. But before we do, I don't think it's all negative. I think there's a lot of positive stuff that comes from
For sure.
social media, but we're not going to cover that today. That might be another podcast. We can talk about all the upside of social media, because I really do think that there is upside to it. But today we're going to be Debbie Downers, and we're going to focus on the negative. Anything else, Joe, before we jump into that?
Nope, let's go.
Nope. Okay.
Let's jump in the rabbit hole.
All right. First, the first thing that I was thinking of, because I know that this one affects me, is time management. And it makes you worse at multitasking. So, I mean, I don't think anybody can deny the time suck that can come from social media. And when I say social media, YouTube is a big one, and I know that that's definitely my vice. And I don't watch much television. The only television I do watch is maybe if with the girls, whatever they're watching. So I'm very up to date on Boy Meets World, Girl Meets World, Full House, Fuller House. I know them like the back of my hand, but I don't really watch any adult television. I really don't watch sports anymore. So YouTube has been my go-to source of viewing and entertainment. I've even gone so far as to I pay for the premium membership. I believe it's $15 or $19 a month.
For YouTube?
For YouTube, no commercials. I couldn't take the commercials anymore. Matter of fact, I hate all commercials so much. Television, radio, I can't take them. I actually feel, I have a sense of feeling bad for the people that have to do the commercials. I think they're that stupid. And that's how much disdain I have for the commercials. That I feel like, wow, I can't believe people have to act like that in the commercials. I look at it and I'm sure they're doing something they love. Maybe some of them not. Maybe they're like, oh my God, I wish I had like a different gig, but I have to do this commercial. You know, sometimes I'm trying to think like, you know, maybe they want to be an actor and they're just doing commercial gigs until they get the real television show deal they want, or whatever the case. Somebody has to start somewhere. I kind of view like the commercial as like a stepping stone, maybe in acting, or sometimes you see a step backwards. But either way, I think the commercials are so insulting to the viewer, to the intelligence of the viewer. It makes me mad, and I feel sorry for the people that have to do them. So I don't do commercials anymore.
Wow.
But that's my problem. But it definitely it definitely draws a lot of time away from things that, you know, maybe you should be doing. So
commercials or social media in general?
Social media, and for me, it's mostly, like I said, it's YouTube that does it, because the other stuff is kind of more just like check in, check out. Chances are I'm not reading your Facebook posts. I'm probably the most selfish person on Facebook. I post my stuff, I post our stuff, I do what I got to do, and you know, I might see your stuff, but I really don't interact a lot with other people's stuff. Once in a while.
So you're like the desocialization of social media.
I just don't. It's kind of like I use it. I try to use it for what it was intended for. The
like a
media.
Business platform.
Yeah, it's a platform. It's social media. So, you know, we're getting out our Facebook Lives. We're getting out our, you know, the podcast, obviously. There's things that we're promoting, and the You Give Buffalo. And it's not all just, you know, self-promotion. I mean, we use it. Obviously, you guys do a lot of great stuff with the charity work and stuff. But I don't get into the fray, the conversational, the arguing, the politics, and man, I see some, and once in a while I'll get sucked in as a viewer, and I'll be just like, holy cow, this is toxic. And I in the past I have, that's happened, right, where it's not a conversational format. it's just a terrible form of
Well, and it's hard to like, especially when you get into that, um, it's hard to distinguish the tone in people's voice. And, people, you could say the same sentence in real life in two different ways, and it could be interpreted in two completely different ways. But when it's just written in that text format, you don't get their facial expression, you don't get their tone of voice, you don't get the the expression behind what they're actually saying. And something that could be completely meant as not offensive gets turned into, oh God, who knows what, to be completely honest. But
because it's not, to me, it's not a legitimate form of expression.
sure.
It's communication, but I don't know how legitimate a form of expression it is.
Sure.
With that, all that being said, I think it could have a lot of negative effects on mental health.
Oh, 100%.
Besides distraction, stress levels. It definitely, I've felt my stress levels reading some of these back and forth, toxic conversations.
Well, even just what was it, on Monday after the Super Bowl, I told you I opened my Facebook, and I swear to God, it must have been at least the first like 30 posts was everyone had their feelings about the halftime show. And I didn't even know honestly what happened because I couldn't get that game to show up. And I think I sat on the couch and read, and then we were in bed. So I didn't have any idea what was going on until I saw all of the banter back and forth about everyone expressing their opinions of that was inappropriate, or do your thing, girl, blah blah blah. We don't need to get into it. Everyone had their opinion, but it was like immediate.
Yeah.
And it goes,
I'm shocked it was even a topic of discussion.
that big of a deal. Right.
Yeah.
That it turned into, I mean, even reading some of the comments. So most of the people that are commenting, those are people, unless you're on like a business type page, but those are people that you're friends with. And some of the things, I'm all for difference of opinion. I think that's what makes the world go round. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. But the name calling that starts, that is something that I just cannot wrap my head around, because these are people that are allegedly your friends.
Well, I feel that they can do that because they don't have to.
They are your friends?
No, they don't have to do it to your face, right?
Sure.
Nobody in their right mind would say that 2 feet away from me. I'm not saying that anybody said that to me, but if it was,
right.
Are you gonna, whatever you toxic thing you just called me, are you really gonna say that to my face?
Oh no, everyone has a set of kahunas behind a computer screen or a phone screen, right? Yeah, they got balls as brass balls,
And somebody might be watching right now and be going, "Oh yeah, I would." No, you wouldn't.
No, you wouldn't.
You wouldn't.
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it. You won't.
Right. And the so the stress levels, the distraction, and it absolutely and there's research that shows shortened attention spans,
sure.
which is this constant back and forth, immediate, short little, you're on to the next one.
Yeah.
You
have constant stimulation, and people, there's constantly a way for people are looking for some kind of gratification. You hear people say it all the time about being bored, and they'll be sitting there and it's like they go and they're looking for something to, I don't know, give them some kind of gratification, cure their boredom, whatever's the case.
Well, what it is, it also overactivates the reward center of your brain.
Right.
And they've done studies on this too. Even if it's not you just looking, being like the viewer looking for things, it might be you posting something and then looking for the reaction, the comments, the likes, the shares. the retweet, whatever it is. But that reward of getting that positive feedback lights up the same part of your brain, which I believe is the hypothalamus, which also is responsible for getting the same stimulation from things like sugar, drugs, nicotine, caffeine, sex, shopping, gambling. All those addictive things are all get lit up in the same reward center. Your brain releases dopamine. So you can see how people are looking for this, and the dopamine is a feel-good neurotransmitter, which a lot of times when people experience depression, it's because there's a lack of dopamine. It's one possibility that could cause depression. So you're kind of like constantly on this dopamine drip. And when you are and you
looking
don't
for like your next fix.
Yeah, you're looking for the next fix. And when you don't have it, it's almost like you've built up a, no different than building up a tolerance to any of the things I just aforementioned, you know? So you drink 1 cup of coffee. If you do that every morning, it's not going to have the same kick as it used to. You might go to 2 cups of coffee. No different than smoking or drinking or anything else. So it just feeds into that addictive behavior where you're just looking for that next pick me up, and that that's not good. No, that's not good at all.
No. Well, and so
which go back to the first point, which is time management.
Right, for sure. And then, you know, even with all of that, you just kind of touched on, and I think that, you know, when it goes to concepts like depression and issues like that, I actually had a conversation with somebody right around Christmas time, because she was talking about wanting to do all of these things with her daughter. Her daughter, I think, is 3. So she wanted to make sure that they went ice skating, they made cookies, they did gingerbread houses, all of these things down the line. You put it on, you know, the little Christmas bucket list thing. And I said to her, I go, you know, she's only 3. And at the end of the day, there's only so much time. And, you know, you can't beat yourself up if you're not able to get each and every single one of these things done. Or what she was doing was actually, she was feeling stressed because she was worried that she wasn't going to be able to get all of this accomplished. And then this is the biggest comment, and that's pertinent to this. She said, you know, I just see all of these other parents and other mothers on Facebook and Instagram, and they're able to do all of this stuff. And I said, first of all, that's the highlight reel. They might have snapped a picture and then never talked to their kid for the rest of the entire interaction of that.
Yeah.
I'm like, that doesn't necessarily mean, and I mean, that's not the case for everybody. That's just kind of a quick example that I use for her. I go, but that also isn't the defining characteristic of what an amazing parent you are. You know, you're worried about all of these things because you want to be a good mother, and you can't let social media be a reflection of the kind of human being or mother that you are, because it doesn't lay out all of the other things, how much you care, even the things that seem so mundane, you know, making their meals, giving them the affection, and even the hard things, the difficult things that nobody posts about being a parent. When you have to be a parent, you have to set the boundaries, they have to go in timeout, they have to get in trouble, and the things that suck as a parent, because being a good parent, from what I'm finding, sometimes parenting is, you have this feeling that parenting is more difficult than fun. I think if you're doing it right, because it can't always be fun and shenanigans, and it can't always be the highlight reel. And what you're seeing and what other parents are putting out on social media is not a reflection of what you're doing as a parent or who you are as a parent. And I think that there's definitely a skewed perception, and that's not only in a parenting aspect, that's for how people see themselves just as individuals, whether it's their confidence levels, you know, in our industry alone. And people have all of these people that they follow in regards to like the fitness industry, and they see people who have these physiques And first of all, you don't know if they're a competitor and if that's where they live, nor should it matter, because at the end of the day, you're not them. Everyone need, people I think forget that they need to be doing what's best for them and about them, and that everything that they're seeing on social media at the end of the day doesn't matter about these other people, because when it comes down to it, the only person that's affecting what they're doing is them. I mean, and maybe they're the people generally around them, but it shouldn't be a reflection of this person looks better than me and then I'm going to feel bad about myself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. You're jumping around a little bit. But yeah, you took it all the way.
Squirrel.
Yeah. So,
but do you know what? It just is just
yeah,
like
no.
I said, from the parenting end, it's across the board. It's not just parents, it's people in general.
You went from the parenting to bodybuilders on Instagram.
Well, I just meant in general, just because people look at, I think a lot of
comparisons.
Yeah, everyone, I think, not everyone, I shouldn't, I guess for general purposes, but it seems like you see social media and it becomes a forum to compare themselves to whoever. I had somebody tag me in a post. They're like, can you make my arms look like this? You work hard. What's wrong with your arms? Or even go back to the Super Bowl. Everyone's like, well, J-Lo's 50. I want to look like that. And it's the comparison,
Sure. So just to tie those things together, going back to the kids, I'm curious because your kids have two devices. They have their own devices
Yeah.
now, and that's it's a constant battle of how much time should they be allowed to spend on it. And if left to their own devices, they would be on them 24/7. So
for sure.
Right.
Yeah. How many times have we had to say, all right, cut off, we're done for the night.
Sure.
Put them in the bedroom, put them on top of the fridge.
Monitoring actually what they're doing on them while they're on them,
right.
That type of thing, which I think is only going to get worse. I think for kids, it's probably the worst thing. I think it's horrible. I don't think there's, I think there's more downside than upside at this point.
For children, especially, when we were growing up, if we were bullied, and we went home, and at least we had peace of mind for the 12 hours that we were home.
Sure. It's nonstop now. They're constant.
Right. Now there's always an opportunity. And not only that, but not only is there opportunity, but, you get these apps like Snapchat or where these interactions can be filtered or disappear. And, you might not even know that your kid is having these issues, but they're constantly, it's at their fingertips where people are able to get in touch with them. And I mean, whether it's by bullying or just anything in general, I mean, they don't get the time to just be left alone.
Well, the other thing I'm going to be curious about is once the weather changes, to see if they still have as much desire to go out and have the physical activity outside and want to go to the park and want to go for the walks. Because my fear is that the device, the dopamine that they're getting from the device is so much greater than what they would get from real social interaction, real playtime, real going out. And I'm curious to see if there's a drop off in there. And we have two specimens I hate to say specimens, but it's going to happen. It's going to come to that.
Sure.
And we're going to find out in a matter of a couple of months if those devices have had that effect. And
right. Well, and I think also too, because I mean, as much as Aubrey likes to use hers, she's not nearly, I don't want to say as bad, but she's not nearly as bad as Bella is. Bella is like,
well, she's a little older too. Yeah.
Right. And Aubrey even will be like, all right, enough with the devices. Excuse me. And she will even say that, at least right now. So it'll be interesting to see the difference in the time change, but also in the two of them, just because they are as similar as they are, they're also very different.
Yeah. the other, and again, the other thing you have to watch for besides the cyber bullying is sexting
I
with
know.
young
You
kids,
know,
inappropriate material that they're going to come
right.
across, you know, on any of anything online. I mean, it's
I
terrible.
know. So they're actually Bella. So Bella's in fifth grade for anybody who doesn't know. She's 11 years old. She's in fifth grade. In her health classes, they have actually they did a child abuse, sexual abuse, and they actually, I think, are talking about child predators. And I have had some very real conversations with her, and I think that she's pretty honest with me when it comes to that. In just her interactions as to what she's doing. Also, because I told her that I can monitor her screen time. I told her yesterday, I actually straight up showed her that there's an app, and I can see what she's doing and where she is in that iPod. But I think that she's pretty honest with me. And I flat out said to her, and we've had conversations before about, you know, because she wanted that TikTok app. And I told her, when it first came out, she had it and she was making videos, dancing and whatever. It was set to private. I told her we just ended up deleting it off of her phone. But I said to her, I go, in these apps, some of them, they have the ability to send you a message. I'm like, that's why it's blocked and only to private. I go, but in the instance that whatever walls that we put up, like whatever security measures, I told her, you know, and I'm like, you can't trust that who anybody is actually who they are. They might be telling you that they are a 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old girl or boy, and it could be an adult. And, you know, she's like, well, why would somebody do that? And I was very honest with her. I go, people will pretend to do that because they are going to try to get you to meet you somewhere, or they have something in their brain where they are attracted to younger children, boys or girls, and they are doing possibly inappropriate things, and they might try to get you to meet them somewhere so they can hurt you themselves or sell you to somebody. And she's like, well, why would they do that? I go, because there's people who do that and they want to touch you inappropriately. And I flat out said that to her, and she was appalled. But I didn't think that there was another way to try to censor her from that, because it's the reality of the situation. It's in the way that things have gone, especially from a technology standpoint, it is at their fingertips. And I think that just trying to have that discussion and being honest. And I said to her, and we talked about it actually just last night, I go, if anybody ever messages you and you don't know who they are, you know, you need to come to me and we need to have a conversation, because I want to make sure that you're being kept safe. And, you know, for all of these reasons, because I don't want you to have to, I don't want to ever have any kind of these terrible experiences where, you know, kids get abducted, or all of the predators and everything like that. So at the very least, but, you know, and that's another one of the problems in itself, is that these kids, they don't know who's behind that screen. And because they're so young, they just about believe anything that they're told. Do you know what I mean?
The other thing is that, especially somebody of that age that's actually growing up with the technology,
Right.
I certainly didn't. You did more so than me. But there's companies, there's one out of England that employers hire. And what this company does is finds everything you've ever written, everything you
Mm-hmm.
ever liked, everything you ever shared, everything you ever commented on, and creates a file and then gives
Sure.
that to the employer to help
Yeah.
do background checks. So
You
even if
know,
you retweeted something or liked something that, and they
well,
were
yeah,
giving,
look at what happened with Josh Allen at the beginning of the season. He had made a comment.
no, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about if somebody said something and you just hit the like button, that you
Mhm.
liked it, and they were
Yeah.
taking things like jokes. Somebody made a joke, you liked the joke, and then they're saying that, well, that joke, I mean, they were making these long abstractions and these long stretches and reaches that that's racist, that's homophobic,
Yeah,
that's,
sure.
and then they gave you almost like a social rating,
Right.
and people were fired, people were not hired. In China right now, people do have social rating scores based on all their social media interactions. And believe me, it is only a matter of time before that is going to become a new standard, where you are going to have, just like
Sure.
somebody has a credit rating, you are going to have a social rating based on your behavior. And there, whether it's going to be in China, it comes from the government.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't come from the government here, there will be these independent contractors that
Yeah.
are
So the
going to give you
employers.
a social rating just like you get your credit rating. So everything
Yeah.
that they're doing now is children is already being filtered through, being scored. You know, they don't even realize the disaster they're setting themselves up with. Every picture that they snap of themselves is
Oh, I
children.
know.
It's all saved. It's all being put into a file on them. This is not conspiracy. This is not, trying to be socially alarming. But this is for every adult out there too. All your nudie pictures, all your dick pics, everything that you ever did, it's
Oh, God.
somebody's got it. There was
Yeah.
last year, they were talking, the people on Twitter, there's a whole staff that's all they do is go through all those pictures. And the one guy said, I seen more D pics, in the last 6 months that I ever cared to see, but
I
that's
think
his
I've heard that
job.
before.
That's his
Right.
job.
Yeah.
It's a, it's crazy.
You know,
And
when I played softball at Canisius, and my coach, Mike Rappel, so this was back in 2005 when social media was just by university. So it was only Canisius that had, it was, Canisius had theirs, Buff State had theirs. This was before it combined into one huge forum. And I will never, ever forget it because he called a 5 a.m. meeting and he had printed out all of these pictures that we had posted. And it was in the off season, but he had printed out pictures of us with beers and all of these other things. And we walked into the locker room and all of our jaws went like this because they were taped onto our lockers. All of these things. And he said to us, back in 2005, before all of this became what you just said, he goes, your potential employers are going to have access to this. The things that you do and say and post and what you put out there into these interwebs, he goes, this could potentially be detrimental to your position in your employment status.
sure.
We ran a lot of sprints that day. I think that there was a lot of sprints that happened. We got in some big trouble, but that was back in 2005 before this was as big as it was. This was when it was just, like I said, by university or whatever.
So imagine from even just a political point of view, if people holding political positions, political power, if they
Sure.
don't want you to get into that circle, that government circle, that political circle, they're going to have every piece of ammunition to paint any type of picture that they want to keep you out. They like this.
Sure.
They have pictures of this.
Well,
She's
in
a
that
this,
aspect,
he's a drunk.
they get into your email addresses and everything.
Everything. Again, employers, if anybody was looking for a reason for nepotism, to have me bring in a family member and to keep somebody out of a job, who's maybe more qualified, all I have to do is let's pull the social media card. I'm sure we can find something on them where it's reason that I don't have to give them the job, and I can use nepotism to bring, my nephew in, my niece in, or somebody, my grandkid.
Right.
I don't think
gives enough probable cause to just, well, you're gone.
they're out. They're
out of the running.
And of course, I don't expect kids to be thinking that way, because I'm sure I
Of
certainly
course not.
wasn't.
I
But
mean, at
that's
11 years, I mean, 9, 10, 11 years old, why would anyone
the
ever think that? But
responsibility of the parents. That's
right,
the responsibility of the adults to make them aware of that, to monitor that, and to take control of that. And that's just another reason why I'm not a fan of, because they don't know what they're doing. They're shooting themselves in the foot. No different than I wish
which,
that when I was brought up, why didn't anybody teach us more about managing money and economics and things, how to invest money? It was never taught to us. If it was in passing. If it was, maybe I was just tuning it out because I was a kid, but it
right,
should have been really, really forced on us to do, and it wasn't. And I don't think for kids, this probably isn't something that adults want to be like, well, I told them, no different
right,
than, I'm sure my father said, save your money, who hasn't heard that? But it was never, that's not going to work. It just won't work. No different than it didn't work with finances and stuff like that. It has to be
right,
enforced, not just, and again, going back to, even if it means you got to be the parent, like you mentioned before, being the bad guy, that's the non-sexy work of the parent that doesn't get shown on social media. Not,
right.
those aren't the pictures that you're going to share of,
No,
the gingerbread house, showing the kid
right,
crying as you're taking the phone away. Nobody's posting that. But
right.
that's the reality.
Well,
But we know
yeah,
that
and it comes down to, even when it, like you said about the finances, remember Bella just had over Christmas, she had birthday money, and she wanted to take her money and buy herself and 3 of her friends all matching pajamas for pajama day. Remember that?
no.
No. All right. Well, it happened. And I said to her, I go, we're not doing that. I'm like, you're not spending the money for that to just go and spend it frivolously. Well, I was semi overruled. Her father was like, it's her money. She should be able to spend it how she wants it. And I go, all right, well, I guess maybe this is a lesson, an opportunity for a lesson.
Sure.
So she takes her money, buys herself and 3 of her friends these matching pajamas, which was thoughtful. I don't diminish that. It was a thoughtful gesture. She takes them to school the next day for pajama day. None of them want to wear the pajamas and they don't want them. So her money that she had, she spent for that and sends me a message saying nobody wanted them and then she feels bad. So I guess at the end, I mean, like you said, it's the parenting where I probably should have stood my ground, but maybe it was an opportunity for a lesson when you were talking about the finances. But, going back to the social media, and this is where this is going to kind of come all back together, is she sent her one friend in that group of 4 a picture of what she got. Well, that friend was like, oh, that's so exciting, so awesome, blah, blah, blah. Well, then she got in front of the other 2 and was like, I don't like them either.
Yeah, they're kids.
Yeah,
Which
sure.
goes back to conform, which is another point about conformity, which is a
Right.
big an issue on social media as well. So, which people tend to, it goes back to almost like a form of tribalism, where people are going to get into pockets and you join groups of like-minded people on, whatever it is. I know there's a lot of stuff, like there's fitness pages. I'm sure there's, whether it's an essential oils page, or I know a friend of mine was telling me about, there's a East Coast drummers, where all drummers on the East Coast get together. So you end up getting into these little pockets of people.
Like my nail group.
Sure, now whatever it is, and then there becomes this. I guess tribalism is the only word I can really come up with, where it becomes one kind of soundboard where everybody, it's a think tank of everybody thinking the same thing and almost pushing it could be good. I mean, I'm not saying like a nail group. You know, nobody's sitting around saying, you know, oh, people that paint their nails they suck.
Yeah.
You know, you got to have
Right.
whatever it is. But
Right.
there's definitely other forums, and maybe even let's pick on the vegans for a minute, where maybe they might even, just because it's off the top of my head,
Yeah.
where there might be a lot of propaganda as far as
Sure.
how, you know, if you don't eat the way they do, then you hate the environment and you're unhealthy.
You abuse animals.
Yeah, you're cruel to animals, you're a lousy person, and so on and so forth.
Right.
And that, I think, is definitely one of the, could be a very toxic side of the social media.
Sure.
Is that, and oftentimes in those little tribes of people, there's usually, with every tribe, there's got to be a leader, right? There's always, the tribe just isn't just a bunch of individuals. There's always seems to be a little bit of a hierarchy. And
Right.
the hierarchy usually has an agenda, and it's usually a self-serving agenda. And you've heard me say this a million times. There's only two types of people in this world: those that want to be left alone and those that won't leave you alone. So if somebody has the desire to have a tribe in the first place, then they must have the desire for control and to not want to leave other people alone. They're oftentimes using that platform or that tribe to either push an agenda, to use people to do their work for them, do their duty in a self-serving manner. And even if it is something like, you know, veganism, or oftentimes there's these, it's just something, it usually comes back around to something very self-serving. These groups, somebody started the group, right? It didn't start on its own. It didn't hatch from an egg. Somebody started the group there, and it was created with intention. So I generally don't join groups. I'm in a couple groups. I joined like this World Carnivore group and a couple things, and I will sit back just to try to get the feel of what's out there. Again, never really interacting. And I can honestly say I'm in a couple, people invited me to some fitness groups or whatever. I've never found any value in any of them. I can't say. Yeah.
Well, I think in certain things, I don't know that you're getting any more information in those groups that you couldn't find elsewhere. And it really just seems to kind of go back to the commenting and the matter of opinion back and forth. Do you know what I mean? And so probably right around the time that I had Bella, I had created a Facebook group called Mommy Time. I eventually took myself right out of the group and like removed myself as the admin, because it went from being what was meant to be for support to a bunch of Judge Judy's, basically. And it got to the point where I was like, this is a toxic environment. I want absolutely nothing to do with any of this, because, I mean, it just turned into like bashing sessions. And, you know, it was the same thing, like I said, where I was reading the comments and I was like, oh, this doesn't feel good anymore. These aren't like-minded individuals trying to spread positivity. And I don't mean like in an area of, well, I guess maybe just from a parenting aspect, but it wasn't trying to spread any kind of propaganda, but it went from what I thought was a positive environment. And as you get more individuals, that means there's more opinions, and you get some people who can be extremely outspoken or just straight up downright rude, you know? And it got to that point where I was like, all right, time to remove myself. I don't want anything to do with this anymore.
I think that would be less apt to happen if that was done in a physically social setting. Not to say that it wouldn't happen, but there are
but you're not going to get the same
monthly meetups. I know people that do business groups where you have business people or like-minded business people that meet up once a month, whether it's
Sure.
for coffee or drinks or brunches and stuff like that. And I guarantee that it's definitely a less toxic setting. Not to say that people can't have differences of opinion, like you said, because that's
Sure.
where better ideas come from, as long as you're open to it. But I also find that through the social media, I think people have lost the ability or are losing the ability to interact socially. They're losing the ability to express themselves through conversation, express their feelings both positively or negatively.
Sure.
And you can see, I feel that I can see the social awkwardness, even as something as simple as being in a grocery store, maybe in line and with a cashier who, is maybe a little bit younger, and you can just tell they're just socially awkward. You answer their question, they didn't hear what you said, they just repeat themselves. And a lot that might just be the boredom of the job too.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's, I'm sure, probably a lot of that. It's like, oh yeah, how you doing today? All right, have a nice day. Enjoy your rest of your day at work. Yeah, you too.
Sure. But you can, I think
I did
anyone,
it when I was a server.
yeah,
I'd say,
you're on repeat.
yeah, I would say, enjoy your meal, and people would be like, yeah, all right, thanks, you too. I'm not eating.
Right.
I'm at so.
Sure. I think if it was like for the example of your mommy group, I would almost bet that it would be more productive if it was done in person. You might always get somebody that's just throwing gas on the fire.
Yeah.
But I think that's where somebody that has social skills can more easily turn the conversation and try to.
Right.
Well,
I did that. I did that Strong as a Mother, the group, the program. I ran it a few times, and we didn't meet in person, but we would do like the Zoom calls, and those interactions were great. And I think that everybody had a good, well thought out discussion to add, and they had good comments. They were supportive. They were kind to each other. Even if there was a matter of, well, no, that's not really my experience, and it didn't turn into like bickering or banter or nastiness. And I think just because, same here, even though we're behind a computer screen, it's still the face-to-face interaction that you're not getting if you're not putting, I think that part of it might be too was that because you don't have that face-to-face interaction, we're kind of, I don't know if desensitizing, but we're kind of taking away the idea that these are human beings that are talking to each other. Like, you're a person with feelings and thoughts, and when you don't have to stare that person in the eye, it's just like talking to a robot. And it removes the sensitivity to have an understanding that this person is just a person too, going through day-to-day life, trying to get through X, Y, and Z themselves, and they have feelings. And I think that the black screen and not having the face-to-face interaction completely removes that as well. And I think that that's part of the problem alongside with it, and why people, while they wouldn't say it face-to-face out of fear of getting their teeth knocked out maybe, but also too, then you have to see and experience that other person's feelings too, maybe.
Yeah.
And have a little bit of empathy.
What about making you spend more money? There's been
oh God.
Right?
Yeah. There's been times I can't tell you. So remember when we went to New York City years ago, I was on Facebook and I ordered, oh my Lord, I ordered clothes through this fairy season website that I found scrolling Facebook. I was like, oh, those clothes are cute. I'd like that. Well, ended up being a total waste because the clothes didn't show up until about 2 months after. They were nothing like I had expected them to be. I wouldn't have bought them had I not had it right at my fingertips.
Sure.
Right? So it was a total impulse buy. I just did it. I'm waiting for probably a month ago, I ordered this purse that also you can unzip the strap. It turns into a backpack that I'm sitting here waiting for. And probably like a week after, when I remembered, like, it just kind of redawned on me that I bought it. I was like, I don't need that purse. I have 50 purses in my closet.
Sure.
Yeah, it was cute, but I didn't need that.
No.
And all of these ads pop up, and it's like, oh yeah, this seems like hey, I like those sunglasses. I need those.
Okay. Count how many times you wear them.
I'm going to wear them.
Anyway, I ordered something on Amazon, not knowing that these were in the shopping cart, which Jill put in the shopping cart. So
they're stylish. I feel like I needed those.
And that's a good example of social media making.
Where did those sunglasses even come from? Because it was Aubrey's birthday party. We were having a discussion
about why
somehow those glasses got brought up. I don't even remember. That's the funniest part about all of it.
Maybe
and my mother and sister were like, don't get those. And I just put them in the cart because then obviously, they said not to. So I needed them even more.
Right. So now you're going to look like Elton John.
Whatever.
What about a negative effect on your appetite? Food porn. That's legit.
Yeah, I've actually encouraged people, especially if they are trying to kind of regain a healthier relationship with food, or if they're actually dieting. And I remember doing this going back to when I was competing, and I had to unfollow things because I was like, you get the visual stimulation of these foods and then think that you need to have them.
Sure. You see that a lot with, I follow maybe on Instagram and Twitter, a bunch of breweries and craft beer places, and they're always showing the new marshmallow chocolate stout, beer. I'm like, oh, that sounds good.
Well, yeah, I just sent you
this weekend,
Just sent you a picture of whatever from Big Ditch.
Yeah, Berry Vision in cans. And
yeah.
Like, yeah, that sounds great.
It had pink foam.
Yeah.
It was pink.
I mean, that's what it is, right? It's social media. It's marketing. And that's a direct effect of the marketing.
Or even,
working.
Yeah, and then, they pair it like Big Ditch. They had that jalapeno beer and the wings. So they put it, and then it's like, oh yeah, that would be good. That would taste good together.
Sure. So, I mean, that's no different than a commercial on TV or anywhere, the radio or anywhere else. To me, it's oftentimes less offensive, like I said, than because you could scroll right past it, and I'm not stuck listening to a 30-minute commercial or a 30-second commercial about, baby back ribs or something.
Barbecue sauce.
Loss of sleep. That's a
that's a big one.
Not only just the either the scrolling or, like I said, usually for me it's YouTube that gets me. Sometimes I like to fall asleep listening to something, but I might wake up and it's still on, and then I start listening again, and it can really kill the sleep cycle. Not even to mention the light that comes from the phone.
Right.
The blue light reduces your production of melatonin, and melatonin helps with your sleep cycle. It helps regulate your sleep. And then everybody has a circadian rhythm, which generally is, sundown to sunup. That would be the ideal time that you would be sleeping. And your body knows that. And that's where you would get the best hormone production, the best recovery, you would have the most energy. And some people can't help it. You're working odd shifts, you're working third shift, and most people that work third shifts, they'll tell you they feel off. Their circadian rhythm is off. They're on a completely different cycle. I know it can be tough. Mine's a little bit skewed because I go to bed a little too early, get up a little too early, and it's not quite in that pocket. God forbid, if I'm, in a YouTube rabbit hole or just getting up to let the dog out, it gets broken up, and you're going to feel the effects of that. Maybe not in one day, but straying 4, 5, 6 days in a row you're shot.
Yeah.
You're shot by the end of the week. Comes to your day off, and you're wiped out. And some of that could be avoidable. Um,
Well, and I think on top of the listening, the screen, and then I think it also just goes back to simply the things that we already talked about. The
sure,
impact of maybe other people's opinions,
stress
maybe
level.
somebody says something, yeah, raises the stress level. And then even if you do put it down, your brain is still cycling about what you just saw, what you just read. And instead of being able to go to bed with a peace of mind, you have not only your just day-to-day life stressors, you have all of these things that are then all presented right in front of you on a constant basis.
I was watching old Mike Tyson knockout videos, compilations of him, like, knocking people out in 30 seconds, and,
Chewing
some
off
of this,
Evander Holyfield's ear.
yeah, stuff like that, highlights. And I was so tense watching it. You can't help it. You're watching it and you feel like you're right there. And I'm like, holy cow, I'm like flexing and jerking and watching this. It's,
Well,
anything like that. You watching anything extreme like that, anything violent, anything over.
right. Well, the other night when we watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I mean, you saw how I was after that. I couldn't even I felt like I couldn't shut my brain down just because Quentin Tarantino is got a psychotic mind, and the things that are just so, seeing it, and it's like, I to watch that even before bed is, and while that's not social media, just I guess a form of media in general, but yeah, you get that all, that stimulation right before bed, and that jacks everything up too. I think after I watched that, I had to watch something that made me laugh, so I didn't have that as the last thing on my mind before I tried to go to sleep.
I think the last thing I was going to mention is just how bad it is for your eyes. Even if it's a computer screen, even the one I'm looking at now, I know after so much time, and I'm not in front of a computer screen all that much, especially
Right.
compared to some people that have to work on it all day. And
Right.
I, say it's the weekend and I have a lot of online training and stuff that I have to do. And I might be in front of it just for, say, a few hours. I'm like, oh, my eyes, I feel it's horrible. It's terrible. Much less on the phone that's smaller, which another thing, which I fear for the kids looking, 6 inches away
Well,
from
especially with Aubrey and her visual.
well, sure, it's just going to exacerbate it. God
Right.
knows
Well,
how
and I
much.
know even with me with my visual issues, when I'm doing stuff on the phone through work and trying to, the marketing, the mind body, blah blah blah, when I'm looking at it for an excessive, I have more floaters. I have those white dots that float, and I've noticed even a couple times I get an ocular migraine where I see like a white light in my good eye. Actually, I ended up going and having it looked at the very first time it happened. I went and looked because I was like, oh my God, I only have like vision in one eye. And this is the eye I can't see out of my good eye. I'm like, this is not good.
So,
And it was
yeah,
and I remember that day I had been doing a lot of computer work on the phone. And when I finally shut things down, that's what ended up happening.
besides the light from there, it's that narrowing, that tunnel vision where you're
Sure.
supposed to be looking high and far and almost, using your peripherals in a panoramic view. I mean,
Right.
that's why your eyes are set a certain distance for a reason. No different than any animal. Dogs. You've seen some dogs, with the bigger bug eyes that are a little
Yeah,
wider.
the pugs.
Obviously, a fish eyes are set to. It's all for survival. They're all survival purposes. Whether it's the eyes of a fly or anything else, it's all supposed to be advantageous to their survival. So from an evolutionary standpoint from humans, you want to be looking long distances for either if you're hunting or if you're
Right.
looking for something that,
Protection.
what's that?
I said, if you're hunting or even for protection to
Yeah,
recognize.
right, to recognize danger.
Yeah.
Granted, you can't see behind your head, but we have, our hearing for that. And it's just, whew, this is definitely extremely unnatural. The laptops and the cell phones.
Right.
I think that's going to be, if you could do it again, get into become an electrician. You'll probably make a lot.
Right.
I don't know. That's all I really had, Jill. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. That I can think of off the top of my head. I think we hit all the high points of it.
Next week, episode 7, Vanessa Sanchez is going to be joining us on the podcast. So we'll have a 3-way conversation with us and Vanessa. We'll talk everything about training and powerlifting and the classes that she teaches at the Grotto and her own personal training business. So that should be a great conversation. Looking forward to that. And I know we'll be talking with Maureen possibly the week after, or she might be joining me on the Wednesday Night Live this week. We just got to hammer out the details. But we'll definitely be hearing from Vanessa and Maureen. And then I'm sure we'll be talking with Megan Alley soon as well, too. We'll get the whole Grotto crew one way or another on either the podcast or our Facebook Lives. I had a great conversation on Wednesday with Angel from Move Buffalo. That was fun. We talked yoga. If you haven't checked that out, I found the conversation very interesting, very informative.
Yeah. And she's such a good person. She is just a good person.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I always enjoy talking to her because she's very insightful, but she's also very even-keeled in her temperament.
Yes, for sure.
So.
All right, Jill, let's shut it down. And that's episode 6, This Week in the Grotto. We'll see you next week.